Welcome to Chapter 6 of our GCLP training. Today, we're diving into what is arguably the most important principle of them all: patient matters. These aren't just rules in a binder. They are the absolute ethical foundation that protects the very people our work is designed to help. So let's explore what that really means in practice. So let's start with a really fundamental question. In the complex world of clinical trials, with all the deadlines, pressures, and protocols, what is that one North Star that has to guide every single decision we make? And here it is. It's simple, but it is so profound. Every action, every decision must prioritize the safety, the rights, and the well-being of the trial subjects. This isn't just a suggestion. It is the non-negotiable cornerstone of good clinical practice, with deep roots in the Declaration of Helsinki. Okay, but principles are one thing. How do they actually translate into real-world action when things get complicated? Well, to find out, we're not just going to read a list of rules. We're going to spend a day inside a model GCLP-compliant lab to see these ideas put to the test. So, let's meet Apex Labs. They are right on the front lines analyzing samples for some major clinical trials. We're going to follow their team as they navigate 3 very different challenges, and each one is going to test their commitment to GCLP and, most importantly, to the patient. All right, our first scenario kicks off with an alert. This is exactly the kind of situation that requires immediate, precise action, where a patient's safety is hanging in the balance. Imagine this. A safety alert starts flashing on a monitor. The data pops up, and a subject's result isn't just a little bit off, it's clinically significant and way outside the normal range for the study. You can just feel it, right? The clock is ticking. So you're faced with this critical piece of information. According to GCLP, what is the lab's immediate #1 priority? What is the very first thing they have to do? Here is the Apex Lab's response, and it's by the book. First, a qualified person immediately reviews the data. We have to make sure it's not just a machine error. The second it's confirmed, they trigger their predefined expedited reporting procedure. No hesitation. Then, the sponsor and the investigator are contacted without delay. And finally, every single step, every phone call is meticulously documented. This creates a bulletproof audit trail, but more importantly, it ensures that patient safety is put first. And if you're ever wondering why these steps are so rigid, it all comes back to this foundational quote from ICH GCP. It's such a powerful reminder. It's not about getting the data for science's sake. It's about the person behind that sample. Their well-being trumps everything else, period. Okay, so Apex handled that urgent result perfectly. But hey, the day isn't over. Their next challenge is going to test a different but equally critical GCLP principle: the patient's absolute right to confidentiality. So a new shipment of samples arrives. As the technician is unpacking it, they spot something that just makes their stomach drop. A requisition form has broken the blind. It mistakenly includes a subject's full name and their home address. This is a serious confidentiality breach. Now, the sample is absolutely needed for the trial, but the subject's identity has been compromised. So how does Apex Labs move forward while upholding their absolute duty to protect that subject's privacy? Their response is systematic and it is precise. They don't just ignore it or take a Sharpie to it. They immediately follow their specific standard operating procedure, their SOP, for this exact situation. The personal info is carefully masked, making sure not to damage other critical data. Then, and this is key, the breach is reported to the sponsor, not to place blame, but to fix the process so it doesn't happen again. And only after that patient's privacy is fully secured do they proceed with analyzing the sample. Okay, for our final challenge, Apex Labs gets a request that comes straight from the sponsor. In this scenario, well, this one puts the whole principle of informed consent right under the microscope. The phone rings. It's the sponsor, and they sound excited. They've got an urgent request. They have a new research idea and want Apex to run an additional test on a batch of samples they already have in storage. But here's the catch. This new test is nowhere to be found in the approved clinical protocol. Now, this is a tricky one, right? It's a request from the sponsor, the entity funding the whole trial, and it seems simple enough on the surface. So the crucial question is, can Apex Labs just go ahead and run the test? Let's just break down the conflict here. On one side, you have the sponsor's request for more data. But on the other, you have the informed consent document that every single subject signed. And that document is basically a contract.
It explicitly states that subjects have only agreed to the tests listed in the protocol. And that leads us to a very clear, very unequivocal answer. No, absolutely not. Apex Labs cannot proceed. To do so would be a direct violation of the subject's informed consent. The protocol is the basis for that consent, and doing any work outside those parameters is a serious breach of trust and ethics.
So, how does Apex handle this delicate situation? Well, they professionally decline the immediate request, and they clearly explain the conflict with informed consent. Then, they advise the sponsor on the correct way forward, a formal protocol amendment, and maybe even reconsenting the subjects. Apex will not touch a single one of those samples for this new test until all of that proper documentation is in hand. So the day at Apex Labs is over, but the lessons are just getting started. Let's take what we saw and distill it down into a practical GCLP action plan that you can apply in your own facility. Let's boil it down to a simple checklist. Number 1, patient safety always comes first. That means expedited reporting is a must. 2, uphold privacy. Have clear, practiced procedures for breaches. 3, respect consent. The protocol is your boundary. Don't cross it. 4, communicate clearly and early. And 5, document everything. Your records are the ultimate proof of your integrity. We've seen how Apex Labs puts these crucial principles into practice. So now, the final question is for you. How will you take these lessons and actively champion patient safety, rights, and well-being in your daily work? Because that is the true measure of good clinical laboratory practice.